Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing here on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. You can follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing. It's good to say that Johnny Ward is back in studio. Johnny, how are you?
What's going on, Ger?
And on the same desk and everything, so it doesn't look like we're looking away from each other at the same time. This is great.
Yeah, and fans of the football show tomorrow will be delighted that we're back. I think Skype and Zoom has become almost a bit of a new normal, but like it's not ideal. I think it's not. I think the old radio dulcet tones and being able to interrupt each other rudely is key to the whole thing, isn't it?
I can see when you're picking your nose and not paying attention, for example.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah, and that's obviously doesn't shine very well on me. So looking forward to the football tomorrow, though. JD, myself and Dan getting back into it, and good racing at Corra this evening as well. Good weekend's racing.
Yeah, we're going to get into the flat season and how it's been going so far in our Toe 10 to Follow competition, which is neck and neck, and the transfer season is open, so we'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes time. But I want to talk about this first. This is Cream Sparkles in a photo finish in the Red Mills Irish EBF auction maiden hurdle at Ballinrobe on this past Monday. Have a listen.
Mahler Mission from in second place now, coming through in the inside. Chicago Time to take it up. Chicago Time now goes on from Mahler Mission. Cream Sparkles staying on at the one pace back in third. It's Chicago Time from Mahler Mission, who's trying to renew his effort on the outside. Cream Sparkles is still staying on, 100 yards to go. Chicago Time. Cream Sparkles is bursting through in the centre as they hit the line. Very close.
All right, so that was the victory of Cream Sparkles at the weekend. Micheal O'Connor is the owner of Cream Sparkles and is with us. Micheal, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hello, how's it going?
Have you seen that back?
I have, yeah. Saw it a few times, yeah. We probably the first time we saw it back is in the pub that night, so we were having a look.
Very good. And
very enjoyable.
It's a photo finish, so it's a bit like VAR, where you've got to wait to actually go off, take your top off and go waving it around to the crowd.
Yeah, we were hopeful, but thought you had it, but that it was wait with bated breath. It only seemed, it probably was only for a couple of minutes, but it felt like half the day was passing while I was waiting for that photo to come through. Like, no
doubt, because you've had this horse for quite a while, right?
Yeah, we bought her 4 years ago there in Tashdall sales. So like we've had. She won a point before. She got a little bit injured, just a young horse thing, and she came back then, and she's going on great. Like, well, I suppose she was in Galway and went on for a few goes at bumper. Really and truly, she wasn't a bumper horse, but just to get her back on grass, we put her into a bumper, and she ended up. She done fairly well, so we had another go or two at bumpers and got third a couple of times, and I suppose went on then to the hurl campaign that she's done already, and at this point won this big race.
And the I suppose just the market, Micheal, for a filly like that, National Hunt filly, being by Scorpion as well. Scorpion was probably maybe a bit out of favour at the time. You can pick up, like, if you have the patience, you can pick up something for very little.
Well, you see, this is it, and I suppose me going to the sales, looking at it, and when I bought her, I hadn't probably realised that maybe Scorpion wasn't the hottest thing going, but maybe that was just as well for me. Myself and my friend Pat McLaughlin, we went to the sales on that day, and we were kind of looking around at everything, and I was looking for something that would have potential for a breeding mare, and we had looked at a few things. There was another... But we kind of had decided there was a couple of horses in the sales that would have done, but we kind of thought the budget was far too big. Because even when I did go doing it, I didn't even think I'd spend 5,000. But no matter, the the first horse we looked at, we kind of went in to see how he'd go, and he was sold for over 50,000. So then the next one that we really liked was Cream Sparkles. So I said to Pat when she was going in, I says, I'm going in to see how this one will go. And sure, Pat was laughing at me because, he knew well I wasn't going to spend, and we thought she'd make big money altogether. So we went in, myself and Pat, and we looked at seen her come in, and, the price was coming down with the auctioneer, and it was down. I don't know, she started maybe around 2,000 or something, and I started bidding, and even Pat was there, and after I had her bought, he didn't even know I had her bought. So we were saying, oh, geez, he was saying, geez, she was cheap, and the next thing, I said, oh yeah, sure, I'm after buying her. So he was delighted with that, So we got her at 5, and we actually thought she was a 4-year-old, or 3-year-old.
Yeah, so the Scorpion factor probably was in play then at that stage. So I was kind of thinking, 4 years ago, his quirks were probably, maybe that's why she was so cheap, I suppose.
Oh, probably, yeah, because, but that's what I'm saying. I didn't know that. I didn't know that his quirks were there.
It's not every horse either.
Well, what are the quirks? Sorry, I'm listening to this going. Tell us about.
Do you remember Scorpion running in the Ledger, Micheal?
I've looked back on him, yeah.
So it was racing's great because you get these traits that are implanted in the offspring. Scorpion won the Ledger for Ballydoyle, and Frankie Dettori rode him, which was very unusual. And I think my late friend John Walsh, I think that was his wedding day, and I think Dylan Thomas may have won the Champion Stakes the same day, but I digress anyway. But Scorpion tried to run out through the rail when he won the Ledger, and he definitely was a bit of a head the ball. Just a little bit quirky, and a lot of his stock, Might Bite memorably tried to run off the track coming up the hill at Cheltenham in the RSA Chase, but it's like that, Micheal. Not all of them are, by no means are they all, and your mare didn't look like she didn't want to win the other night, obviously.
Oh no, sure, look at she's you could tell, depending on when you ring, when you'd be ringing David to see how she was and blah, 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 but it depended on the day she was, because, David, sometimes he'll say she has some very, she can be her own little boss some days of the month, and she kind of goes, well, she does her own thing, she's her own quirks, but she's able to race, and that's it.
Well, he also gets very good looking stock.
She's a picture of a mare,
Yeah. That was the thing, Gerard, with a lot of the Warfront horses as well, that the Warfront gets unbelievably good looking horses, but they have frailties that people can't put their finger on. But it must be beautiful when the plan comes together, Micheal, like that, and you're there for the long haul, and you kind of recoup the not insubstantial cost of keeping a horse in training.
Oh yeah, it was she won in Galway. She was third in Galway, and you're getting there, but you're always hoping for the win. And then David said, we'll enter in this the Red Mills race, and he says the prize money is pretty big, and he says there's 5,000 of a bonus there. If she wins it,
a filly's bonus, yeah.
So we thought, geez, that'd be great, and to get normally you're getting 5,000 or 6,000 for a race like that, but the next thing, you double it, you get it 12,000, sure, that's brilliant altogether. But then someone said, sure, maybe she might get the 5 as well, sure, that's brilliant altogether.
And there's another 10 apparently as well for the incentive scheme.
Yeah, but sure, I didn't hear about that until the night in the pub.
Great. That's like a third win in the day.
After she had won, so it was a bonus all the way around. Like the EBF thing and all that, they're great to sponsor the likes of this, and it gives the likes of me a chance to, maybe recoup, and I'll be always looking at that now. I have another filly coming along, and you know, you'd kind of aim her towards them kind of things, you know. So it's brilliant. It's great. I didn't even know about it until I had it won, so it's brilliant.
And with Cream Sparkles, was there ever any point where you kind of lost a bit of hope over the last while when the injury was there? Because it is a long old road, and you obviously, you know, you've had it for a while now. What was your general sense of where this was going?
I suppose. Look, you hear a lot of stories about this one and that one, and sure, sell her and don't bother your head with her, and be spending money on her to keep her. Now, I kept her at home here, and I'm able to look after them myself. But yeah, people were saying I should get rid of her. Someone would say put her in foal, and we always knew David Christie from his working with her, and right from the beginning, the girl that broke her was Rhonda Armstrong. And everybody that a jockey that got up on her and rode her for a while, or, you know, done works on her, and everybody said this horse is going to win. You know, they all said, "Oh, she's going to win a heap of races." Like, you know, they'll win a few races or whatever.
So that kept you going. That was enough for you.
Well, it did. But you see, then, you know, it's hard. You leave her off then, and you say, well, will I go back and start again, or we as well off start with a different horse? But here's the proof. Like, if you look after a horse, well, they always said, the old people used to always say, if you look after a horse, the horse will look after you. So that's what she's doing at the moment. You know, and please God, she's won a bit.
Presumably, you're thinking of going chasing with her down the line, unless you're totally beholden to the breeding plan, I suppose.
No, Jason is we're on our little you know, David's plan and my own plan with her. She was always going to be a chasing mare, but like, we're getting there. So she went to the bumper route, and now she's at this hurdle stage, and you know, that's the road. She's a big mare. She's a good sized mare, and I think that is her game, is the chasing thing.
How long do you have then before you do put her in foal? What is the time frame for that?
Well, I don't really have a time frame. You know, she'll look at while she's making money for me, I leave her racing, and when that doesn't come about, we'll go. I wouldn't be looking to put her in foal next year, if you know.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. What is that? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? What's the kind of the outer period of that? But I suppose as long as she's continuing to win. So Punchestown, I think you're not an automatic entry. We're certainly you're qualified for Punchestown next year. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a nice bonus too. Like, it's something for you know, the small guy to aim at, is that there's a big pot there, and you're qualified for that. So, but look, we'll see how she goes. In the meantime, she's back on the gallops, and you know, after the race, and she's going well. So she's back, you know, hacking away again. So we'll see what's coming up in the next while for, you know, when she gets over this time. Like the last time now, we kind of had, you know, she's ran every 2 weeks between bumpers and hurdles, and it's probably a bit, you know, maybe she'll do it an extra week of a break, and maybe she doesn't. I don't know. We'll see what.
And what part of Roscommon are you from, Micheal?
Ballinrobe. Ballinrobe.
And how does a man from Ballinrobe end up with David Christie in County Fermanagh?
Well, I suppose when I started off with David Christie, I had Kieran Mahan, a friend of mine. We kind of were looking at horses, and I had a horse before on my own, and he said Kieran was kind of getting into them, and he said, well, would you mind, you know, he didn't want to go on his own, and he says, would I take a chance and go on another horse? And sure, I said we would. So we bought a horse, and Kieran said, he says, this fell up in Fermanagh, and he thought he was good, so we kind of rang him, and we put the other horse into him. We actually sent him up to him, and he sent that horse on up to Rhondda to break the horse. And then it was only a few days later I ended up buying Creamy Sparkles, and David was at the sales as well on that day, and David looked at her and he really liked her, and we sent her off for breaking up the north at that time. And since that she has she's been back up to Rhondda as well after she hurt her foot. She was back up to Rhondda to get prepared, a bit of road work, a bit of easy work before she went back into David to just prepare her legs for what was coming ahead over the spring. And she seemed to go. She went on grand, And so I suppose that's how I ended up with David, and it's I do be up and down to him on and off there, and he's grand to go into. He's a small trainer, does very well on the pint to pints, and I suppose his customers maybe, or his racing people that David that his clients, we'll call them, I suppose, they're more into the pint to pints, and David he's well able to train for the track too, so
very good.
There's proof of it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
he's
one of those, one of those come from behind victories where you win in a photo finish. Nothing more enjoyable in sport than come from behind victories.
That's it, yeah. And his son David then is he rides her David Christie Jr., we'll say. He rides her out on a daily basis, and he's they're doing their thing up there, and I find them great, and Margaret, and they just do their thing, and it's a very natural place to walk into, and see how the whole game works. It's happening there in front of you, and there you go.
Yeah, very good.
I enjoy being with David, and
can I ask you who's the real owner of the horse, Micheal? Did you name the horse Cream Sparkles? Is that your creation?
No, that's my daughter Rebecca. That's Rebecca's horse. She's actually here with me. Rebecca, come here and talk to them.
How are you, Rebecca? How's it going? Where did the name come from, Rebecca? Where did the name come from?
Well, I suppose when she went off for breaking and she came back after her break, Rebecca, she was supposed to be Rebecca's horse. So me and Rebecca went out and looked at her in the stables when she came back, and I says, Rebecca, that's your horse. And she says, what do you want to call her? I said to Rebecca. And Rebecca kind of said, well, she says, she had a little bit of cream on her nose, on just around her nostrils, and she says, I want to call her Creamy. And then she kind of looked at her more, and David had her clipped out fully, and she was very glistening and sparkly, and she looked at her and she says, I want to call her Cream Sparkles.
Very nice.
So
what age are Rebecca?
What age, yeah?
7, is it, Rebecca?
She's 8, and
she's in. So an 8-year-old has come up with one of the nicest names that a horse has been given in Ireland this year.
Yeah, and she came up with it when she was 4, or 3 or 4. Was she 4 or 5 that time when she
Very
came
nice.
here?
Sue Magner would be proud of it.
So at the day when she said Cream Sparkles, to me it didn't seem like a name that would be a name for a racehorse, but my God, she has grown into it, hasn't she? Absolutely.
Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. Rebecca, I have one last question for you. What was it like when the horse actually won? Did everybody around you go a bit crazy? What could you see?
Well, they were all James, Paddy, Tara and Andrew were at the railing, and James and Paddy jumped off. and they were like shouting yay.
And going a bit mad, as they should do, I think, because it's an incredible achievement. And I suppose this is one of the stories that we cover a lot, like the big races and the big days and the huge prize money is huge, very important to bring people in. But for you, Micheal, for you to have a win like this, like, it keeps you going, it gets you back in. It means you're going to go back and try and buy the next Cream Sparkles, I suspect.
Well, sure, this is it, yeah. You're kind of... That's what I have, that's what you do. Like, I suppose the bonus to go out and buy a horse, it's unbelievable to think that somebody, after winning a race and doing your best and all that, to say that, oh geez, here, you can go on and buy another one. And, and on top of the prize money, sure, there's 5,000 to trainer. So, sure, look at, why wouldn't you go ahead?
Sure. And down the line, then you send her to, I don't know, an up and coming National Hunt Stallion, and she breeds a foal who turns out to be a lovely horse, and maybe Rebecca can ride it.
No, that is.
That sounds great.
She's just Rebecca hasn't. Well, she'd do a bit of pony tracking or that, but she hasn't got up on any big horses yet. Did you not, Rebecca? No. But some of the other kids are starting to get into it as well.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, I'm going to say.
So I have 5 of them to get a horse for.
Right. Well, you better keep winning. Micheal, thanks a million. Congratulations. And Rebecca, cool name. Well done.
Thanks, you.
Thanks, folks. That's the owners, proper owners, the full ownership.
Cream Sparkles.
Yeah.
Reminded me of my one horse naming attempt. I was very proud of it. It was, the line in the Yeats poem where he's like, "Oh, body sway to music, oh, brightening glance. How can you tell the dancer from the dance?" It's like obviously a deep philosophical question.
I mean, we all did it for our Leaving Cert, but go on.
I didn't actually.
It was in your Leaving Cert book.
Don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure it was.
If any of my teachers are listening in, hello. And did we do that? I don't think we did.
I'd say you did.
But anyway, I was like, dancer from the dance. Does that fit in? And 18 characters is the max.
Right.
Dancer from the dance is one word, fits exactly 18 characters. The horse just turned out to be very, very slow.
Right, it's unfortunate.
Send itself and Johnny Mullen sent it to Willie Mullins. And even, he can't get a goose to sing or whatever, he just couldn't get it to run any faster. So it was a great name, I thought, but unfortunately...
Wasted, would you not?
It's totally wasted. Like, I was thinking if we were by Danehill Dancer, it'd be a great name, like Dancer from the Dance.
But now you've ruined it for anybody else.
Yeah.
Or how long do you have to wait until...
So if the horse passes away, I think you can name another one from the same jurisdiction, so you can call another horse. So if anyone ever wants to call a horse Dance from the Dance, just make it move a bit quicker than ours did.
Fire away, okay.
That's the
vagaries of naming
actually
horses.
just on that. So that horse costs like, I think she was 22 grand or something. The Scorpion filly costs 5 grand, and she's infinitely better than her. That's the beauty of the game, and I love stories like that because David Christie's a small trainer. He's not maybe small in the point-to-point world, but he wouldn't have many horses for the track. Ballinrobe, Micheal won't mind me saying, is definitely a racing backwater like where I'm from, and to see that, you go down to the local pub afterwards, everyone's celebrating, probably buy a round from the winnings or whatever, and it's just great for a local, small part of rural Ireland. I think rural Ireland's definitely had an upsurge in the last in the pandemic and all that, but rural Ireland could do with good stories like that.
Yeah, for sure. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Let's move on because we want to look back at how the flat season has been going so far and what is still to come. Jamie Benson from Tote.ie is with us. Jamie, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Hi guys, yeah, good, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so the Tote 10 to Follow competition is in full swing, but the transfer season, the merry-go-round, is right here for us now. I think it opens on Monday, is that correct?
No, so it's actually open now. It closes at 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning before the EBOR meeting starts.
Okay, very good. So we need to get our finger out and get some good advice, particularly Johnny, who is just ahead of me, given the fact that, he's an artist when it comes to this thing, as in he lives it. This is his meat and drink.
Slightly stretching this, but go on anyway.
And he's just ahead of me, who basically stuck a pin in 10 names and maybe copied some from Tom Malone at the start of this.
A lot of
months ago.
going on. Let's not lie about it.
Yeah, I got some advice. If I need advice, I get advice.
Let's get advice off Jamie then.
Well,
exactly.
What do
we do?
Yeah. To be clear, lads, I mean, we're talking about who's second, third, fourth in the sort of Isthmian North Premier League. Like, this is not.
And I've the financial backer as well. And I still can't do anything.
Yeah, no, this is your opportunity to claw your way out of some quite big holes, frankly. I mean, the good news is you guys aren't in quite as big a hole as I am with my lists, but still, you know, when I was looking at the horses that you guys had picked, one, I wish I'd picked some of them, but two, I was going, right, okay, well, who are the two that you could sub out? And it's you're spoiled for choice, lads. You could sub out about 6 of them.
This is like telling the dressing room that like 9 of them are for sale or something.
Yeah. If I had 12 subs, I'd use them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the specifics of it, what has the season been like so far? Have there been many horses who were outsiders at the start who have performed really well, who are actually catapulting some people's tend to follow list into the upper realms?
Yeah, absolutely. So the tend to follow, especially the early stages of the season, a lot of it is based around the 3-year-olds, and it's a bit of a lucky dip, isn't it? At the start of the year, you've got a bit of 2-year-old form to go on, but realistically, you're hitting and hoping. And ultimately, there have been a load of busts. You know, Van Gogh, Wembley, High Definition, even Santa Barbara actually won in the States, but really she hasn't picked up much.
Got 4 of those, yeah.
Just the 4 of
them. But yeah, so then on the flip side of that, if you got the right call on a horse like Poetic Flair or St Mark's Basilica, or indeed Adayar doing the Derby King George double. If you had either of those 3, you're in very, very good shape. Again, similar with the fillies, Snowfall, obviously an exceptionally good shout. But outside of her, you know, you look at Pretty Gorgeous and all these types that have really failed to deliver. And certainly my tend to follow lists are a graveyard of 3-year-olds that I think are currently rated about 65. But
well, I don't know if do you remember Robbie Earl playing football?
Yeah. So
Robbie Earl was that fantasy football gem. It was like in the early days of fantasy football, he was like the player that he was probably like the Snowfall or Alan King's Stare. Maybe he's like who would have what percentage of tend to follow would have put Snowfall in given her 2-year-old form?
So I think she was in about 8% of lists,
and even that surprises me. Which
I'll be honest was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. A bit disappointed, but she's already been by far and away the most subbed in horse. So she's been subbed in by about 50% of lists so far. And I suspect that to rise further to sort of more like 65%, especially when you look at the bonus races that are left, which obviously hold the key to scoring points because they're worth 50 rather than 25 for a normal Group 1. And they're the International, the Nunthorpe at York coming up next. But then the St Ledger, before the St Ledger, the Irish Champion Stakes, which will be a big one. And then the Arc, which is shaping to be an Arc for the ages.
Either of those races, actually, Jamie, are going to be like absolute. Champion Stakes and the Arc are going to be races of the ages.
Completely. I can't wait. So I think the Champion Stakes. So Champion Stakes also is a world pool day for the first time. So it's basically you have all the Hong Kong money being bet into the tote pools, and so I think you'll get some huge price differentials.
That's very interesting.
Just explain this to us, will you? How will that work, and what difference do you think it's going to make to how we all look at prices and all that kind of stuff?
So basically, 1, the pools will be very liquid, so you could have a big bet and not move the price. 2, the Hong Kong money, because it takes up the majority of the pool, as well as money from 18 other jurisdictions in the world, but it's mainly Hong Kong is the big weight of it. They
Jamie, we'll come back to you in a second. The line is just there's a few little gremlins on the line, as is happening with Skype, as you said, Johnny. We've kind of
like the mention of Hong Kong, just something mad happened.
Too much liquidity in the market.
They bet over there.
Tell me about why this is the Champion Stakes is going to be a Champion Stakes for the age. So St Mark's Basilica, Mishriff.
Yeah, like no. As he points out there, like it does. Adib. So it kind of clashes with with other plans, but I made this point. If Aidan O'Brien alone just ran runners in the Champion Stakes, he could run 8 horses off the top of my head. So you could have an each-way betting race, and it would be one of the best Champion Stakes run. He's that, like, between Snowfall and Love. Admittedly, was a bit disappointed the last day. St Mark's Basilica looks a bit of a superstar. I think if he went to the race, he'd probably be favourite. But I'm not 100% sure what his plan is. But I love the Champion Stakes because it's 3-year-olds against older horses, fillies against colts, milers against mile and a half horses, run at, you know, one of our truly, you know, great racetracks in Leopardstown. And if anyone is listening in from the government, like, please cut racing some slack and let people go. You know, there's been a lot of debate in racing about the fact that there are 40,000 people at Croke Park, and it's not a whataboutery debate here, but it's like racing is well able to cater for more people than are going at the moment. And I think, to be fair to the sport, you know, it has provided racetracks for vaccination centres and so forth, but also
it doesn't make any sense for them not to.
No, and
it doesn't hold up. I mean, I know you're saying it's whataboutery, but like sometimes you've got to say, well, hang on a second, what about?
Well, it would be quite easy to punish people who've gone to Gaelic Games for not wearing masks, because people are not wearing masks at Gaelic Games, whether you like it or not. But there's no talk of them being punished. So I don't know what racing's been punished for, because, and as well as that, to be fair to the government allowed racing to come back like relatively early last year, June the 8th or whatever it was, and racing was indebted to the government and has been indebted to the government for financial support, but at the same time, that was a long time ago.
That doesn't make sense to me. That argument is actually like, it's another reason for them to allow it to get up and stand on its own 2 feet again. We invested all this money, here's your chance, and we did it with the express intention of allowing you to keep the industry going, and now here's your chance to kick on. That's what consistent policy would be.
100%. Well, we've obviously been bereft of that, but to be fair to racing, it's done the job really, really well in terms of the protocols, and everyone was really law abiding. Like, and I think that goes back to my point that racing did feel indebted a little bit. It was giving something back, and it said, we're not going to screw this up, and it didn't at all. There's been hardly any case.
I actually, they were a testing ground. They were the testing ground that other sports had to look to. They went through the protocols.
Not the same,
but it's not. But they proved they got their act together and they were able to do it. Like that was an important aspect of like, okay, it is possible for us to go about some form of normal continuance in an industry. And I've no doubt that there were lessons learned by other industries from what was going on. And that's not we don't owe you for that. You owe us for having, like, we were the ones who were going out. I think, look.
I agree with you.
I think that there's an opportunity, and I can see how people in the industry are going, what about? I know people in the industry are going, what about? Hang on a second. Why? What's that? Why is that happening?
Well, if 500 people are at Listowel, like that's an absolute disgrace. Like, and I mean that's a disgrace. You shouldn't take something away from people. Like, to the people of Listowel, to the old man who wants to go racing, is double vaccinated, is willing to take his chance now, and he's brought his wife for the last 20 years. Don't deny them the chance to go to their local racetrack, because 500 people will do just that.
I do think the government have a case to answer for that, and it doesn't make any sense, and I think that that's going to become more and more pronounced as we go on. So fingers crossed. We've seen how quickly they can change things when they need to.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed they'll do that again. Let's go back to the Tote 10 to follow. We got sidetracked there in the conversation. Essentially the conversation about the Champion Stakes. Jamie's back with us. Jamie, you were just explaining to us the impact that the Hong Kong money is going to have on the markets and how that's going to work. Because I think this is a really fascinating story that a lot of people are kind of only beginning to wake up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically, in short, it's the Hong Kong money tends to go on horses and jockeys particularly that they're familiar with. And there's huge recency bias. So, for instance, at Champions Day in Alaska last year, Holly Doyle, after she rode the first 2 winners, her third race, she was on a 33 shot, and I think it went off about 4-1 in the pool, which meant everything else paid massive overs. And Ryan Moore is notably the one that gets over back in the world pools with Hong Kong punters. So basically, if you're looking to take on Ryan Moore, you will almost certainly get better value in the pool. And it's just an interesting ongoing theme in the changing pool betting world that we're trying to improve.
Yeah, and so for people who are listening today, who are thinking, okay, that's very interesting, I do want to take on, how do they do that? Can they do that through their Tote account?
Yep, absolutely. So just on tote.ie for Irish Champions Day, that'll be Whirlpool. But then the 3 days at York coming up now are also Whirlpool, and you get the Tote guarantee. So on York, any horse that pays under on the Tote, you'll get guaranteed to be paid at SP up to a maximum stake of £20,000. So, you know, go easy, lads.
Yeah. Pat Keogh in his Leopardstown days, he was always desperate to get a Japanese runner in the Champion Stakes, and in the end he achieved that. But if there were, which I don't think there will be, but if there were a runner this year, it could completely warp the whole toll process, because like the Hong Kong punter is obviously far more inclined to back someone from the Far East than he or she is like somebody from Ireland. So like that'd be the holy grail, wouldn't it, if Jamie, if they sent over a Japanese runner who really didn't have a great chance of winning, what was like remember Deep Impact on the tote the Japanese came to back Deep Impact in Paris when Deep Impact obviously didn't win the Arc, Deep Impact being the sire of Snowfall, incidentally. And a lot of the Japanese, they were so hardcore, they literally just backed the horse, and they were going to keep the docket even if Deep Impact won, because they wanted a souvenir. And Deep Impact was sent off like 2s on or something, and he was actually a 4-to-1 shot.
I think it was even shorter. He might have even gone off nearer sort of like 5s on. It was mad.
Yeah. And if you back Raylink, who won the race, you were paid at like 27s or something, which was completely bonkers as well.
I think this is all really amazing.
Exactly.
Jamie, who am I subbing out and who am I subbing in? You're giving me. I don't want to do Snowfall if 65% of the people are doing it, because then I can't catch up on them.
Swim against the tide and all that.
Exactly, yeah. Got to look for an outsider. Give me some hints and tips.
So the reason why Snowfall makes a lot of sense to sub in, obviously, is because she's running in the Yorkshire Oaks, but more importantly, she's a 3-year-old filly going in the Arc. And, you know, she could take in all sorts of bonus races on the way. But what you probably want to look for is a horse that might run well in one of those bonus races at a biggish price, because you get paid the tote price as well as the bonus points. So if you could find a 20-to-1 winner of the Arc, no pressure. But maybe something like Philomene, who's a Godolphin horse in France, who looked like she could be a superstar at the start of the year. She actually goes in a Group 2 at Deauville tomorrow. So if she were to win that, then she might go under the radar, but have a very good chance in the Arc as a 3-year-old filly. A similar argument could be made for Create Belief, who won the Desmond Stakes yesterday at Leopardstown, actually. And I think she goes for the Matron next, which is a Group 1, and then from there, hopefully into the QE2. And again, she could be 20-to-1 there, although maybe not if she wins the Matron. But again, she will be on almost nobody's radar. And if you could pick out a horse like one of those two, I think they could go very well.
Okay. What about Princess Zoe as well, who's running at the Curragh this evening? Yeah. I mean, she obviously hasn't had a ground thus far this season, and ultimately, with someone like her, you've got to think about what races will she be running in, and if she, ideally, you need to try and find a horse that's going to be running in the bonus races. And I don't know if her plan is the Arc or not, but the Arc is the only bonus race remaining over her extended trip. I think you've just summed up there why I've really flunked at this whole thing.
Forward planning.
Yeah. You lost me at bonus races. But she might run in the Arc. She might, but she's not going to win the Arc, to be fair.
Well, I'm definitely. That's how I went for the bonus races, and I picked who the favourites were, and I put them in. It didn't work for me this time, but it did work for me in the National Hunt tote 10 to follow.
You were right, but you were wrong.
Well, my process was good, Johnny, as opposed to
throwing in a few names.
Well, I was going to say yours, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jamie, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers for the advice.
Thanks, Jamie.
Jamie Benson there from Tote.ie.
He sounds like a good lad, doesn't he?
Yeah,
type of lad that you could have a chat and a beer with over the football and the races.
We must bring him to one of our roadshows.
Indeed.
When we're all allowed to do roadshows again. Right, that is the Tote 10 to follow. As it stands at the moment, galloping away around the corner from us is Tom Malone, who has lapped the field at this point. I think it's 281 he's on. You've got 153 and I've got 150, so...
That is close.
It is close. A whisper behind you.
It's like, the dregs race. The camera has long since left the track, but there are two also rans slugging it out for, I don't know, I suppose avoiding ignominy really rather than anything else. Yeah, I like that guy who had to be helped by his dad in the Olympics. That'll be us holding each other up. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit HRI.ie. You were saying it's good racing this weekend. Good tonight at the Curragh. Yeah, the Curragh. I don't know what the race scores. I don't know what the crowd at the Curragh is. It might only be 500 actually. But if you're there, if you're lucky enough to be there, it's a really good card. And I don't know. The government does need to realise that people have gotten out of the habit of going racing, and racing can't bank on people always going racing. And I think the longer it goes on, Jessica Herndon has spoken about this. It's habitual, and people can get out of. People might have gotten out of going to the pubs, but they may have gotten out of going racing. So I think we need to get them back at the track. And tonight would have been a good start at the Curragh. It's a good card. Okay, all right, good stuff, Johnny. Thanks for that. Cheers. Thanks, sure. We'll see you next week. Friday Night Racing is broadcast every Friday afternoon across all of OTB's social channels. You can get us youtube.com, you can get us on Facebook, you can get us on Twitter, and of course the best place these days is on the OTB Sports app, where we have loads of exclusive content and first listen and first look and all that kind of stuff as well. And then every Friday evening at 8 o'clock you'll hear us on Off the Ball on News Talk as well. Stay tuned.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.